last half an hour, what I'm going to say is, anybody had any epiphanies through that period, through anything at all that's been happening? And then we're going to talk free flow about stuff as being a part of the groups, basically. Any real shifts and epiphanies?
I would say this. I mean, it's the sort of the new mindset now that we all have to be sort of so careful in business for at least the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. Does everybody agree that there is a new norm? We've actually been opened up to a brand spanking new facilitation that we're expected sometimes to be restricted now, where we've kind of come from what we classify as the Western free world, and we've moved into a feeling around possibly, if there was another pandemic or that, we'd easily say, yes, okay, we'll stay at home. No problems, no arguments. What's somebody's view on that?
I think everyone's discovering the power of Zoom, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
House Party.
Sorry?
House Party. There's another app deal. It's called House Party.
Yeah,
I would be on it.
It's a bit of a dangerous one, though.
I wouldn't go on it, because I'll tell you why. They've still got massive loops with their security. Until they've actually locked their security up and pushed it out, it's somehow, basically, anybody can be on House Party. You don't even have to register. You don't have to involve. You just turn up, join, and it's quite frivolous. And they've managed to outline the fact that, you know, there's a lots of issues where people who are supposed to be out of these sort of groups are turning up in the groups, maybe children are being preyed on, that kind of thing. So just keep that in mind as well.
No, I mean, Zoom's existed for a while, and previously it was mainly the tech guys that used it. And now suddenly everyone's using it, from business to social stuff, you know.
Wonderful.
We used to go out on a monthly basis with our friends, and now we've done it twice on Zoom. Thought it's a bit weird, but you'd never think of doing that, would you?
Yeah, and just on that point, basically, about Zoom, I mean, Gurnam, just to give us a feedback, I mean, what's happened in the university scene? And I'm going to come to Elsa next for university as well. What's changed in university? Hasn't education completely changed now? You know, people are doing it virtual, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think for academia, it's definitely a different platform moving forward. Currently across the UK, and I guess Elsa can add her view, but across the UK, universities, the main income, or certainly one of the largest incomes, was international students. And we're really having to think about where is that extra income going to come from, because that fed into the whole research and development and innovation. So I guess to a large extent, we are forced to think differently. What that would look like moving forward, does the business model change? Does it continue but just go digital? We don't know yet, and I guess we'll find out as the results come out and see how many students actually do take up their places that were offered, and how many don't. So it's still very much a moving beast. But one thing that I can say is we had to shift online very, very quickly. Luckily, a lot of our teaching modules were coming to an end anyway towards the end of March, so we weren't overly impacted from a teaching perspective, but from an assessment and exam perspective, we certainly had to go online.
Right, got it.
Yeah,
that'd be really bad, wouldn't it? It'd be quite interesting if that was really at the start of the year. It's complex, isn't it?
Well, exactly. So it's given us some time to adapt, not adapt very quickly and then have all these lectures. So absolutely.
Bless you.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah.
And if I can just add, in terms of moving forward, what we have recognised and continue to recognise is that the physical space is still very much important. What that looks like, and everyone's had their different perspectives on whether that's social distancing, larger classrooms, less students, and all the rest of it. We're still going through that thought process. But what is clear is that, you know, students come to university not just to learn, but also to have that social interaction,
yes,
to grow. This is an experience in their life that they
independence.
Absolutely. So the physical space is still very important, but also when we look at the digital space, it doesn't necessarily mean a static screen is going to be, I guess, attractive to students moving forward, because we have that anyway. So it's about looking at what platforms are out there that are more immersive, so that they gain that experience. So there could be, let's say it's a design student, you need access to a workshop, for example, to develop your innovation or product product design.
Yeah.
I'm
The
a
one thing,
student,
one
so
thing that's definitely, sorry, one thing that's
conclude there. Just want
Yep.
to conclude there. So there are immersive technologies out there where you can actually design things interactively using VR and AR, where actually you don't have to be in the workshop. Not saying there's no value in the workshop, but there are other platforms out there that we can use. So we're looking at those as well.
Brilliant. So no problem at all. There's one of the key things that's going to definitely be an emerging market. The software is already there. So Zoom, Teams, whatever it's been using, it's going to be the hardware. Have a think about this. It's going to be how can a hardware platform or hardware out information actually start to become adaptive to certain rooms. For example, maybe connecting a single module that can sit by itself on any TV screen. So you don't have to load Zoom into the big TV, but you can interact with it differently. There's all these cool things at Portal. You remember Portal, which is by Facebook? They've obviously already done this. The challenge is that allowing Portal, Facebook into your home and allow it to constantly listen to what you're up to. That's one of the things that people really are playing with at the moment.
Just like to say about Portal, it's great. I've got one on my TV at home. We've got one with my sister with her nephew, and we talk to her every day, talk to my dad every day. It's made things
so much easier.
So much easier just because it's not doing this whole thing where everyone's got shaky hands and
just while you're on that there, Petros, tell me something. Which one of the three portals do you use? Are you using one? Let me go through them first. Well, there's one which is basically the better one, which is a physical, it's like 12 inches, a 15-inch big tablet with a screen at the bottom. There's one which bolts onto the top of your television, and there's one which is a standalone portal which sits on the desk that follows you around as well. All of them follow you around, by the way. But
so personally, I use the one that's on the television because I feel like that's the one that is the most game-changing as such, because we've used the Alexa. No, not you. I'm going to mute her before this gets out of hand. But you can always do like Alexa video calls with each other, because a lot of my family have got those screens ones. This is me just being a video guy. I'm all about about new technologies and everything, so I'm always trying things out first. But one problem with it, with that, is that it's like you've got this television, you've got this big 50, 70-inch television in your home maybe, and why not use it? Why not use it to communicate with your friends and your family? And that way it's not just this small screen, because otherwise it's kind of like, why not just prop your phone up against a wall, like a countertop or something? I feel the TV one is the best one for the home, and then maybe in an office, in addition, like you always see in like sci-fi movies going back years now, they always had like a video calling through the desk. And while that's exactly what we're doing right now, I think one thing that would be a huge advantage is having a separate unit dedicated to that.
The captain's log, yes, absolutely spot on. Just for reference, basically anybody in university and stuff like that, have a chat with Jitesh Lakhani. He's around here somewhere. There he is in the middle with the purple. And basically he's already speaking. If you read the chat, communicate with him directly. So Elsa, what's changed in the world of London East?
Well, short term, we're staying, as we are, in that we're working virtual from home. There won't be no immediate rush into the university, because our university is currently a hospital. So we took advantage of that in relation to, there's a lot of campus, and there was also a need in relation to patients. So yeah, we've chose to open
a similar thing. And do you all kind of think that virtual's here to stay as well? So for example, when we were just talking about a problem there, Gurnan, where people have got to 60 to 70% of pupils revenues were coming in from, obviously different to different universities, from international clients. So is there a question out there that maybe international clients will get more involved in virtual for at least the next 2 years? Because I'm going to tell you now, the fabric, or should I say the landscape of business, is not going to change anytime soon until you've got a vaccination out there. And even with these little roll-offs, just to be clear with everybody, just with this roll-off of people going back into this temporal release of lockdown, people have gone mental. I went past Tesco's the other day and it's completely rammed. I couldn't believe how people were queuing up at KFC, and all the restaurants were just like jammed. Obviously, they're not allowed to open the restaurants, but the takeaway side is just completely gone ballistic. So it's a hell of a lot of ignorance. If you remember, I'm not sure if anybody's seen it, but Gary, what episode was it on the Daily Tip Show that we spoke about the phases? Was it the 7th?
Episode 7.
7. So episode 7 on
The one that came out today.
Yeah, the one that came out today. That's right. Yeah, on episode 7, we're talking about the 4 phases of lockdown, and this is not just lockdown as a human being; it's lockdown for the country and then the world. So actually, did you know there was an energetic flow of how people are running through this? I mean, it's just some great things to be thinking about. Roman, I know you're over there in Bratislava. The framework, or should I say, the actual setup in Bratislava is somewhat different because they don't have much what we call rejection to what the government's saying for their health. Is that right? Please bring us in, Rome. How you doing?
Yeah, so we were quite quick to adapt the lockdown in Slovakia, which I was surprised, but it was very helpful, I think, because we heard the news from from Italy, how bad is it there? That it's really bad. And then people started wearing the face mask immediately. Like everyone, like the president, she started wearing it. Like everybody in the government, like the news anchors, they worried, when they were saying the news. So everyone. So I think that helped a lot. And also because like we had a bad government for a long time, so there was a lot of corruption, and the healthcare system wasn't that good, or isn't that good now. So like people really knew that, okay, we have to do this. We cannot we just have to stick to the rules. It's not pleasant or whatever, but we have to take care of the other people that are more sensible.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that.
Isn't it on in addition to that, Sukhi, don't you think that I'm sure everyone will agree, the Zoom online or this online meeting that we're doing, it's the convenience, right? It's ease which we have. At the same time, when you have got a physical space, you can limit it for 100 people. That Dil was mentioning that in the webinar, he managed to get 280 people, but it would have been a physical space. You would have only done 80.
240 on
240, yeah. So it's just that how many people you can reach online.
Yeah. So and also they were in places that I wouldn't have normally gone to, or they wouldn't have come into London, say. So the geography is much bigger in terms of geographic reach.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, makes a serious sense. And I'm saying basically the reality is that each platform has its pros and cons. Okay, so the reason why Zoom took such a great growth, because they started off with like 10 million only 8 weeks ago, and they've gone to a platform which is over 340 million already. So it was really designed around the retail platform, and now they're struggling, or should I say rushing, to integrate features from other areas like breakouts and polling and bits and bobs, and being able to teach in 3 or 4 different rooms on one big classroom. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of benefits that are going to come out of Zoom, because they really have this shares have shot through the roof. They've gone against the grain, just to let you know. So great innovation. So does everybody understand that through this time frame, there's obviously, my heart goes out to everybody who's lost people, because it's real. Does somebody agree that the world, what do you think? I'm not talking about business now. I'm saying, what do you think is going to change as a permanent feature? It could be about business, could be social, could be anything, but what do you think is going to change? Because as Amar just said there, working from is convenient, and Dil was saying it's convenient, but it's also very distractive, because you may be sitting in your house, you may have kids running around, you may have something else. And what was once before a very focused meeting face to face might not be possible. We were speaking the other day about hotels, weren't we? I think it was the very first social call. The rooms are going to have to become studios. You're going to have a big, massive, 80-inch OLED in front of you. It's going to be set up with this camera, get lighting in the room, and you're literally going to be performing to a room. So those are the kind of things that people are probably going to book up in future. Jatinder, we're talking about Smart Hub. So talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
About Smart Hub?
Yeah, because that's principally what that was. It was supposed to be the studios, which were coming in a physical format.
Well, what it was with the studio is we were getting some space sorted out where people could come in and do a podcast. And then obviously because of this thing, that isn't going to be possible now. So it's about adapting to that and seeing, well, what can we do online? And there's lots of apps, there's lots of things that you can use. I mean, for example, I did a podcast interview with Ravinder using my app, my phone app, right? I just sent him a link and he linked into it, and it just started recording the conversation, and we're just having the conversation just through the phone, just normally like this, and it created the audio file, right? So we just extract that, put it up as a podcast. So it's like the innovation that's coming through out of all of this is going to be totally amazing. I feel the other thing I feel is like when we got this group kind of format going on, it's like everybody's like respecting each other, whoever's talking, and trying not to talk over each other, because you just can't hear the audio if everybody talk over it, right? So there's more tendency to listen, and I feel that in some way it's allowing you to connect better, you know, because if you're like this and you're listening to everybody, you're actually connecting a lot better because you're listening, which I think is quite interesting as well. And so I think as people get used to it, it's just going to become the norm. I mean, I've been used to working from home for a long time now, fortunately, kind of thing, right? So it's not that different, but I've seen a big kind of move in the way, you know, people seem to be having better conversations with each other. You jump online, there seems to be, maybe because we're missing each other in that format. So it's amazing times. It's amazing time. We're really fascinating about what's going to be happening and how this all is going to expand. You know, you're going to have cameras in every room or something, or is that what's going to happen? You know,
you know, that's what they want, right?
Right, exactly. You know, just to tap into the CCTV and see what's JT up to today. Let's see. Oh, look, he's cooking paneer again. Right.
It's funny because if you think about it realistically, what has definitely happened from this is the fact that we're going to be much more oriented at having a visual phone call as opposed to an audible phone call. Can you see when you look at Star Trek and you look at all the things from 1960s, etc., they used to open up this little
all
flip.
Coming true.
Yeah, and you used to have a little flip and sit there and have a conversation. I mean, we knew it was there with FaceTime. We knew it was there with Skype, which was the first. But it was there with Zoom, but no one really used it. It was like, yeah, it's just a hindrance. It's become so simple. And by the way, it's the simplest platform, Zoom is, to start a call. It's just super easy. I'm just giving you an example. That's principally where we're going now. And now you've got things like FaceTime, WhatsApp, and even Messenger, who are allowing you up to 8 people in a group. And that's really cool. I'm not sure if you've tried them, but FaceTime, which is on Apple, it's starting to really evolve, and they've really looked at what's happening. Like, for example, if I'm talking now, it doesn't put us in a square, it puts us into these little bubbles. And what it does, if you're talking, it maneuvers you in the center. By itself, it's really quite interesting. Try it with maybe 8 people on there and talk, and it just maneuvers you in the center. You finish conversation, and the next person comes back in. And so you're always looking at the center of your screen. It's quite interesting. They've always seems to get it right. And everybody else looks, you know, when you look at the Facebook app, when I'm talking about the Messenger VoIP call and also the WhatsApp VoIP call, it blocks you up with really cool shapes and sizes. It looks very origami. Does that make sense? So it's pretty cool. I think I'm really excited that we're getting to a stage where we're gonna get very used to a shift into visual phone call. You know, I think calls are gonna die. We're not gonna do them anymore. You know, we're gonna be sitting there, quick VoIP, bang, there we go, and say, hey, how you doing? Once upon a time, it was not a norm to pick the phone up and talk and see your face. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the other one of the other things this is going to be interesting is like I was thinking about how when we were doing events and seminars and things like that, you know, trying to fill a room and all this kind of thing, and how that dynamic is going to change now as well, because you obviously can reach more people online. And you can have this kind of format going on. So our people are going to start setting up proper studios now for proper presentations, and, you know, say join this event. Are we going to start seeing more live music shows happening? You know, it's like all that kind of stuff that was going to kick in at some stage. Spot
on, awesome. I mean, I'm just sorry I'm bringing the conversation again. Gary, I know you're next, but that's exactly what's happening. I mean, there's people in the, as you already know, These Are the Times. That was a track that was done by about 20 plus UK and world artists, and they were all singing from their home. Each one has sang the whole track with a video and whichever format they're doing it, with professional gear and professional vocals, and then somebody has seen them all together. So they're all, cleverly put together. And then there's other friends who are people like in the Bhangra industry. They're launching stuff where they've got the musicians in different locations, and they're all with a heavy quality, what we call it, integrated audio and visual, playing the track, and they're all singing together live. It's just so cool. The jams are coming up.
That's what's going to happen. And because I attended a webinar with the event industry, all the leaders were there, and that's exactly what Jatinder mentioned. That's what they said as well.
Such creativeness.
They're already doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is already now. I've had about 15 different invites and calls to things that are happening in the music industry. It's really lovely. It's really lovely. Gary, you had something to say?
Yeah, I think as a mindset coach, what I'm fascinated by, and I have been recently, is up until now, and I include myself within this, there's been this phobia around technology to a certain degree. Much preferred the one-to-one contact, seeing people personally. But what I'm fascinated about is the adaptation of humanity, the adaptation of how people have, because they've been forced into it, they've all adapted in some ways to deal with it. And I don't think when we look at ourselves, we naturally think we're that adaptive to sudden changes, to crisis. But if you look at how we've all adapted, I mean, even now with our business boardroom, even, you know, that is all virtual, and people want that because it's easy.
Well, I'll add to that, Gary. I mean, sorry to cut you there. You can carry on in a minute.
Yeah.
We did a poll on this with every BBL we've done. We've got another couple next week as well. Every boardroom we did with all the mastermind groups like this. And what we did, basically, we did a poll, and we've had 89%, no, sorry, I'm wrong, 92% of people who would like a mix of in-person and virtual meets. That's kind of cool. It was a mind-blowing for me. Trina, you had something to say?
Yes, I also think having these Zooms and you're teaching something, it means I live out in the sticks, and therefore I don't have to drive anywhere. I've got to drive 2 hours. Well, to London, it's just impossible. So I think that's going to be really helpful. I also think it's going to be the person that's running it won't have to have this huge room, so it's going to be cheaper for them to run the event, and also therefore they can pass on the savings to the participants, so it's going to be cheaper for us as well.
Yeah, I agree, totally.
I think it's a really valid point, and as hosts as we are, I think what Trina said there, it's so important now that we think about who else is on the call, who else is there. I mean, everybody has made a real effort today in the last couple of socials to be there, to be on time. And as Jatinder said, we are probably far more aware now of when people are talking. Admittedly, the system makes it easier because you know who's talking because there's a yellow square around you. But people are more forgiving, and they are allowing people more time to talk, more time to express themselves. And we've brought back a family feeling to a lot of things. I saw an article recently where somebody was having a meeting, and they had their daughter sitting on their leg. And it's accepted now. As long as they don't interrupt, we can still have a totally functional meeting, even with your son or your daughter sitting on your knee. They can see what you do. They can see the people you talk to. They can feel a part of it. Then you can put them down. They run off. They're happy, but they felt involved. And that separation of work and home is now becoming far more blurred.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, Gary, just sitting on the lap side, I think if I got Ranveer to sit on my lap, my son, yeah, he'd flatten me. Come on, the guy's bigger than me. It doesn't work anymore, you know? Once upon a time it was the case, yeah. It was easy to bring him on my lap and say, sit down here, but not now. Please don't put me through that.
What's also fascinating, right, is that it's like what you said, Gary, is that, it's, you know, now you're connected, we're literally in your homes, like, you know, it's like an invite. This is my room, my office room and at home, and it's like when you chat to somebody in this kind of format, it's like you've invited them into your home and you're kind of relaxed, you chilled out, you might have just like some dodgy top on or something, and your hair might be all over the place, but I've had those kind of conversations with a few people as well, and it's like more personal. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's connected you a lot more closer with people. It's
I love it. On that point, have you seen that meme that goes around? It's a social video where a gentleman's actually started selling a Velcro suit. So it sits over your shoulders. It's already got the shirt tied up. It's got a tie there, and it's closed up. And you just throw it over your shoulders and zip it back, so that if you're at work time, everyone thinks you've been in the work mode. Then after he's gone, he pulls it off, and he's got a night suit on.
I think Ranjit wanted to say
Ranjit
something.
want to say something. Ranjit.
Yeah, sorry. It was just I think that I've noticed the amount of sales on microphones and cameras have just gone out the roof. I mean, I can't find anything now at the moment on Amazon. Most shops.
Go to Logitech. Go to Logitech.
It's been crazy. Microphones, cameras, obviously the hardware, the sales of hardware have just gone through the roof at the moment. Everyone's investing now. I think better sound, even the space that they work from. Even mobile, there's kind of garden houses people buy just to build an office in the back of their garden. Businesses booming there. But also talking about VR, we mentioned that in our group earlier. I think VR is going to definitely play a role in the way we move forward. Having people to do almost FaceTime in a VR setting is probably going to be the next step forward, really. People able to use kind of easy kit, be in a space, almost like that holodeck in Star Trek. We'll be kind of interacting in that way. Yeah, playing games and sports events without actually in the actual gym. Imagine playing a game of badminton in a holodeck type thing.
We're all running ourselves into the Trekkie mindset, aren't we? We're going back to 1960s and saying, yes, it's coming, from way back in the 60s. Well, can you imagine this flicking this machine, and it's becoming a 3D hologram next? So, we can sit there and talk and interact with somebody in the face. That'd be rather cool. There was actually, just to let you know, it did cost them a lot of money, but Anthony Robbins, he did a world first about 5 years ago. Not even now, a world first 5 years ago, way back in 2015, he did a world first. He had 10,000 people logged in to an event. It was actually what's this entry-level product called?
Power Within.
Unleash your power. Unleash your power within.
Yeah, that's it. So unleash the power within, and he actually delivered it from his own living room with 16 cameras.
Yep.
Imaging him. In those days, you needed that many cameras, right? 16 cameras imaging him. That's 4, 4, 4, and 4 behind him. And he literally could walk around within this box, and he was hologrammed. He was projected live on stage in front of 10,000 people. He wasn't even there.
Wow.
That's 5 years ago. So we're getting there again. It's going to become, with this interjection of what we were talking about, Petros was saying a moment ago with reference to things such as home, portal sitting in the house, and it's how dynamic it is. It sits there and it follows you around the room. I'm not sure whether that's a great thing, but when I'm live, yes. Would you believe even Facebook, when they launched their products, if you order a portal from their site, they even give you a plastic clip to go over the camera, so that if you're uncomfortable, you can clip straight over it, just in case you think they might be opening it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Quite interesting. I love the idea, but I don't know whether I trust Facebook yet. I don't think I trust Facebook yet. That's just my feelings. It's definitely a function.
I don't think you can ever trust Facebook.
Yeah, it's my feeling anyway. But the people who are using it, Petros, absolutely, I love it. And I do think there's a serious distinction between social and domestic use, social domestic use and business use at the moment. Soon, each one, look how quickly they've moved. They went from having 2 people or 3 people on a video call to 4 people on their WhatsApp and Facebook platforms. And now there are 8. I mean, it's not going to be long for the 16. And then it's going to be unlocked truly. So there'll be a serious fight in that VoIP arena.
So any other thoughts around what, the adaptation of people and how as a society we're doing?
Oh, okay. I actually have something that I think is quite important, is the way that right now, as a video producer myself, things have kind of, for lack of a better term, gone to shit for me personally in the last few months. But that's only because it's gone into the instant lockdown. In the long term, things are going to be changing quite a bit, because a lot more people are going to be requiring video services. And when things are a little bit more still restricted, but not we're never ever going to go back to the way things were. That just isn't going to happen. At least, like things won't go identically back to the way they were. There is going to be a fear for a number of years that something that something can be transmitted, and people are just a lot more aware now. This is the same sort of level of event as 9/11, in the same way that people became a lot more aware of things like terrorism and things like that. It's changing the world as we know it. Only this isn't just a thing that's isolated to the Western world. It's the entire world now.
Yeah.
Video production is going to change this a lot, because it's going to mean things like you were saying with property estates. Video tours are going to become much more popular. They've already started for luxury listings in the US, being a very popular thing, but it's only just starting to pick up here. And now I think it's going to start booming here. For example, I think setting people up at home with studios, like you said, instead of it just being an office, is going to be setting up the studio. People are going to have to learn how to use cameras and use lights and make things look a little bit better. I typically actually don't use this Logitech C90 when I'm talking, even on Zoom and Skype calls. I usually use a Sony A6500, which is a small mirrorless camera, but it has much higher picture quality and looks really good. Currently, I'm editing a lot of videos for people that they're going to be doing, such as the Daily Tip Show, actually, which Sukhi and Gary do, and so I do all the graphics for that. There's going to be more people who do video like what they're doing, and will need somebody to edit it, or will have to learn how to shoot these things properly. And that's just where things are going to start moving. Is that we are moving in a direction now of where you can work from home, but you don't have to. But at the same time, we've learned the benefit of the fact that, I actually can do these things from home. And it's not always going to be the best solution. Like, for example, for me, filming a movie from home, not going to be the easiest thing in the world. I'm not going to lie. But we actually did film a little short film relatively recently, all from home with a bunch of other actors. And that's a thing that I think a lot of people are going to start getting used to, is the idea that we can go to you, we can help you with these things, but there's not necessarily a reason to leave the home and leave your family unless it needs to be a direct collaboration in person.
Yeah, love it. Thank you very much for that synopsis. I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, just to quickly thank you for everybody's interaction, by the way, and hope you've really enjoyed it.